I
Very
want to
cool. That big fire drill.
I want to magnify. I want to see those VHSs in the back. Are those books or VHS? What
They're
up?
they're all VHS. Yeah, like
Amazing. That's awesome.
I love physical media, and
High fives right there, man.
yeah,
Me
yeah.
too.
I've been like a part of like a bunch of VHS documentaries, and it's kind of like I love it because you can actually like feel it. I grew up with
Hmm.
it. Like it just kind of rushes back to me, and I love this resurgence of VHS, kind of like how we had with vinyl. So it's kind of neat to see a medium that I really enjoy as well.
Oh, that's good, dude. Yeah, it's starting to get it, but Pulp Fiction, that was my when I watched Pulp Fiction, I was like, oh, would this look like in chronological order of the story? So I had two
Oh man,
VCRs, and I like had to rewind and record, and
that's
trying to put
amazing.
it in chronological
Come
order.
on, that's
It does
awesome.
not work that way. So Quentin Tarantino did the right thing by
It's like he knew what he was doing.
he
So
knew
it's
us. He
weird.
knew us.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's so cool. Well, I want to jump into the film just because that's why we're here. We could talk about VHS all day, but this is such a fun film, or I guess it's not a fun film, but like a great film. And I have to like talk about how the emotional toll that is kind of for the viewer as well as I'm sure you guys as well. What kind of conversations did you guys have about getting that emotional authenticity right, both in the performance as well as the storytelling? Because for full disclosure, Chris, I looked into like everything that kind of led up to this, and I love that you push so hard to get this film done. It's really neat. My grandma is actually a nurse, and so
Oh, love that.
I've been in and out of cardiologists. Like I've been going to doctors my whole life.
Yeah.
So to see this like from the horse's mouth, I love that aspect of it. So often we get this like Hollywood version of this type of stuff, and it was neat to see it done right.
That means so much. Yeah, and a great amount of that can be attributed to the fact that my dad is a doctor, my wife is a home health nurse, and nearly every patient interaction is at least in some way loosely connected to a real life interaction that one of them has had at some point in their life. And so, just from a technical standpoint, it was so important to me that what we were putting up on screen was accurate.
Yeah.
More important than that, even though, was the emotional authenticity, making sure that the experience of this character that we were going along with felt true to those in this profession. And making that happen cinematically obviously began with the writing, but then it carried forward into the individuals that we brought on board. And in a lot of ways, again, the age-old adage is 90% of directing is casting. If you cast that project right, you don't have to do a huge amount of work to find that emotional authenticity, to find that truth. You cast people that bring the appropriate truth, the appropriate experience to the roles. And so when I was casting the character of Sam, I needed someone who, first and foremost, you could look at and go, yeah, I would trust this guy, sight unseen, open my door and be like, come on in, take care of me, bandage me up, give me that shot. I just needed someone that just had the aura of safety, of confidence, of health, and then also had the ability to peel that back and had a darker side. And Harry in his past performances had shown very clearly that he had both of those in his tool belt. And so it was a no-brainer to send this to him and see if he'd be interested in coming on board.
Yeah, kind of speaking off of that as well, the real life experiences, and Harry, you not only star but you executive produced. Did that help you kind of get in that personal investment that Chris has, or did that influence the creative process as well? Because I feel like when you take on that much responsibility, Chris obviously is taking a lot on because it's his personal investment. But at the same time, when you come on board and not only are the lead, but then produce, I feel like you almost, you have just as much skin in the game, for lack of better words.
Yeah, I think for me when I first read the script, I was like, this is something a really important story, really important a character, a lot of sense, like character-driven story of trying to figure out this idea of what we look at with healthcare in healthcare and home health, specifically nursing, and on top of that, a male nurse. So these aspects you want to make sure it's done right, right? And looking at the way that Chris, as a filmmaker, seeing this was a short before, so I got to see some of his work and what his intentions was, and also his skill sets, which are was blew me away. When I watched it, I was like, I have to work on this. And then on top of that, I wanted to make sure that we're on the same page as we move forward. Because when you make a film, sometimes no matter how much you have discussions, you sometimes like, well, that's not what I thought we were going to make, when it comes out.
Yeah.
So it's less of my creative like input, but more of me just getting a full understanding of how to play this character and also to see it ride all the way through as much as possible. Because a lot of times as an actor, you come in, you drop in, you do your thing, and then you're out, and then when's the premiere? So to be able to have the in between and really have that conversation in production, post, along with obviously the production, but like the post and being able to be in this part of the process is really fascinating because I love filmmaking. I'm not just don't like just being on set. I love everything that comes with it, along with being able to talk about this, being able to collaborate, being able to get to know the crew that he brought in, and also understand the the way that he's thinking beyond just storytelling, but beyond more on the technical process of it too, was fascinating to me. So to me, it was more of a learning process as well, because the more you learn, the better filmmaker you can be, I think, because you're going to be on different sets where you're like, well, that's not how we did it before. And then you're like, but this is works perfectly for this particular film. And so to me, it was more of I would call like the producing aspect is just growing. You're just growing along with the film, and that was something that really was really exciting for me.
And just to compliment Harry, I mean, as an executive producer, that just allowed him to be supportive of the project beyond the production period, which is just so wonderful to have someone who you can send a cut to and be like, hey, how's this feeling to you? And that really turned him into a long-lasting supporter. It wasn't come in for those 3 weeks that we shot and then see you later at the premiere. He's been a part of the process for the entire thing, and that has been so encouraging and so helpful and so inspiring to me. So yeah, don't let him undervalue it. He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's interesting just kind of doing a little deep dive into the background of this project. It seems like not only like the cast, the crew, the extras, they have nothing but good things to say about Harry. So that was kind of neat to see too. Like you dig deep on Twitter, it's like there's nothing negative said about either one of you, which is kind of neat. Not always the case. You guys know.
You haven't dug deep enough, you know.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, this film has a scrappy grassroots origin story, from student crew members to community partnerships. And this kind of piggybacks off what you guys were saying, but how did that do it yourself ethos, the energy and dynamic, how did that affect the set?
Yeah, it's a great question, and something that I'm looking back on it so thankful was the case. Like I mentioned, a lot of the patient interactions that happened in this film are based on real life interactions that my wife and my dad have had. And when I listened to them tell those stories, they were riveting because I knew they were true. And each perspective and point of view that was brought into those stories was unique and idiosyncratic and fascinating. And so the fact that we had this set with trained professionals, with students who are still learning their craft, all coming together and bringing their unique perspectives, their unique angles. It actually, I think, kept that authenticity alive, even in the production. And even while it might be something ineffable, I think it's felt in some way, that kind of scrappiness, that kind of passion for the project, which is born out of I love this material, I love this concept, and I might just be, beginning my filmmaking journey and feel very insecure being given this responsibility, but I'm going to rise to the occasion. And having that kind of buy-in and those diversity of opinions and perspectives, I think, fed into the overall piece, hopefully in a way that helps to keep the authenticity, that truth alive.
And there's just something fun about just, getting a running scene on the street that we can't block off that's being filmed on a white van that just looks like, so suspect, right? You're just like, what is happening there? And then having these visual effects that you're like, let's you have, Josh was someone that you worked with, so I don't know, like for since college.
Yeah, 2 decades.
Since college, and to have someone there that you've known that you have a shorthand with, and then on top of that, just kind of figuring out the idea that we don't have this these equipment, like how can we get this shot and find the most interesting way? Our DP has an engineering background, Paul Dufio, and he built it was like C stands and then like
4x4.
4x4s, and then like had it drilled up and then had the camera on top, and then as quick as it was put up, it was as quick as to put down. And there's no equipment, and he just went to Home Depot and got some stuff. And I love that because it just reminds us of, like, we're just kids, man, just trying to make something interesting. And then obviously on top of a great script, let's see how we can capture this in a way that we don't need all of these things. It would be nice. But when you're making something like this, especially in a story that needs to be told, but sometimes studios aren't looking, to tell this. We have to make this happen, and I'm glad that we were able to all be there and be so supportive of each other to make this.
Yeah, I mean, I began my filmmaking journey as a kid, literally as a kid, and so anything that can bring me back to that mindset, to that spirit of just being a kid, being play pretend, is excellent. And sometimes, unfortunately, it is the chaos, it is the restrictions, it is the inability to do things the Hollywood way. And so there was one particular instance I remember when we got rained out, but we couldn't be rained out. We had to still shoot. And so Harry and I became kids. We're like, well, what if we went to the porch and shot over there, and we could like frame it in this particular
Let's go to the playground. Oh wait, no.
Yeah. So the energy of trying to figure things out on your feet and just kind of play pretend, I think, again, brought some of that authenticity.
Use the rain. I mean, people pay a lot of money for rain.
Yeah.
So we got the rain for free.
Yeah, exactly. So things like that always, I think if you use them, add more to the film than detract.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. Being on set, seeing things like that happen, building stuff, the quick trips to Home Depot. It's like those moments of necessity ultimately are those moments that shine, when a movie's premiering or when you're watching it with a crowd, because you kind of nudge your buddy like, hey, we did that shit. And that's always, it's such a cool moment. And it's such a cool feeling to like see it go from beginning to end and then everyone enjoy it. And Chris, kind of jumping off that, this project was 7 years in the making. And what were some of the biggest creative or emotional obstacles? I mean, we talked about creative, but let's jump into emotional, along the way. And ultimately, how did you push through them? Because this is a heavy story. This is a mental health, healthcare professionals. A lot of people are afraid to tell this story. And, were there any obstacles or difficult conversations along the way?
It's a great question. Yeah, so for me, one of the things, I teach film at the collegiate level, and one of the things I oftentimes tell my students before they embark on a project, especially if it's going to be a feature, is I ask them, is this idea inescapable? Can you not get away from it? As much as you try and work on another project, this just keeps on coming back to you. You just feel like you have to share the story. And this was definitely one of those stories for me. And I think that came from a variety of places. Obviously, the connection to my wife and her involvement as a home health nurse, and my dad, who's a doctor. But it also came from the fact that I love the kind of film that it really kind of puts you on the edge of your seat, that is kind of this adrenaline shot of an experience. And I really love the idea of getting to play in a world that would afford me the opportunity to kind of put those emotions up on screen, get the audience to experience those kind of emotions. But then more foundationally, I so desperately believe that we as humans do a great job at missing each other, at not seeing each other. And so getting an opportunity to remind myself, much less the audience, that we need to do a better job of seeing each other. Those in healthcare, yes, but all of us need to do a better job of seeing each other, being willing to be seen, mistakes, brokenness, and all. So in any moment of emotional, distress of how long it was taking and how difficult the money was to raise, I could come back to those really foundational things of, no, I think this story is an important one to share, that this message is an important one to get out there. And that definitely buoyed me through it all, and kept me thankful and joyful amidst all those ups and downs.
And Harry, like digging into your like filmography, it's pretty wild, man. You have like such a wide spectrum, Crazy Rich Asians, like I had forgotten about Mortal Kombat Legacy, that, hell of a role. But was there anything particular that drew you to this role? Because this character is a lot different than a lot of your past roles. I mean, obviously you have the hospital connection, but I feel like this role had a lot of depth that a lot, we haven't really seen from you. I mean, sure, we have in other ways, but hopefully you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, no, I do. I understand. I wish I could speak on like how strategic, if like strategic I am in my career, but it really isn't. I honestly, it sounds. I don't want it to come off in bad way. I don't know how I ended up here. I just don't like in my career and the things that I've done. Like I couldn't have like drew a master plan of these roles that I got to play. These really, some of them iconic characters. Some of them are just like phenomenons of like properties, if you want to call them, or whatever, like movies and television shows. So it's to me, it's just trusting my gut. I read something, it affects me. I see talent, and I see someone who also I want to support that like needs a chance to showcase their talent and also work with them and to be able to have fun because we forget like as what we do is sometimes we make it too serious, right? It's just like I just want to have fun. I want to tell good stories. Some of it, some throughout the journey, it might not be because you're gonna have to go through things emotionally that might come up that you kind of want to put on the side. But we have to come, to me, it's like I want to come face to face with the things that scare me. I want to come face to face with the things also that excite me. Sometimes I'll have to say this. My wife has to remind me constantly. It's like, why don't you celebrate that thing you just did? And you're always worried about because the question in Hollywood is like, so what's next?
Yep.
Right? It's always what's next? What's next? What's next? And sometimes like, oh man, how cool that we did this. We made this together, and just enjoy that because you're right. It's like vapor. It goes away immediately, and all you have is maybe the footage. Like there's not a plug, but I wrote a children's book with my wife, but just holding something tactile is a different thing than what we do in film. Like we can't hold the film, right? We can't hold it other than talking about it and discussing, which is just as powerful in a lot of ways. But even sometimes we're not doing that. Like we're missing each other because we're not even. How did you interpret the film, or what kind of rised up from the things that you saw, or and so for me, it was really about what gravitated. It's how personal it was for him, and how this character I really understood the idea of battling the pressures of being perfect, and sometimes how we're in denial of the idea that we might need to like take a look at something and take a step back and have a little bit of critical thinking on ourselves, not just the world around us as well.
Yeah, that was great, man. I couldn't agree more. To wrap up, Chris, this is kind of a personal question for me. I actually work at a college as well. So I was kind of curious as to like how did the faculty and staff, how do they react to like your success, or like the fact you're working with Harry? Like, is there any animosity at the office, or how does that go over?
Thankfully, no. So in my particular department, it's actually a relatively small department. So the lane that I'm in, kind of the teacher of the directing students and the screenwriting students, that's kind of my lane. And we have a media studies faculty member who's phenomenal at that, who actually ended up doing the music. Bearden Coleman was one of the composers on the film. So we had to collaborate in that sense. And then my boss, my department's chair actually produced this film. So rather than animosity and any sort of competition, we're kind of just collaborating with one another and making the most of that. And I really could not do it without them and their support. We fortunately were able to shoot this over the summer months, but a lot of the pre-production happened during the semester. And the fact that my boss was like, "Hey, you're pre-producing this film. We should do a class on pre-production, and you should bring the students into that process with you." And allowing those two things to kind of happen simultaneously, could not have done it without Josh Sikora. And Bearden Coleman, the composer. So it's an amazing group of people to work with, and quite to the contrary, they've just supported me and applauded me, and they're all going to be here tonight for our world premiere in downtown Hollywood. So it's a great thing to celebrate together.
Awesome. Yeah, congratulations on that as well. I'm sure that'll be one of those moments where, again, you kind of nudge your buddy and say, we did this shit. But I guess to wrap up, Harry, is there anything that you want people to get out of this film or your performance, or just maybe is there something that any parting words as far as this film goes? Because I don't like that what's next question, because there is so much happening right now. So let's celebrate it,
Yeah,
like your wife would say.
like my wife would say, let's channel my wife. Look, I mean, look, I think one of the most important things outside of the, capturing the story is being able to just watch something with people. And I'm gonna talk about today, like being able to open up the Dances with Films, being in a room full of hundreds of people, eyeballs watching this, and with the connection of the eyeballs to the heart and to the mind is something that is just we're starting to lose. And so to keep harnessing that energy and gathering people together to fill a space and to be able to feel something, whatever that may be. And in this particular movie, a lot of things, and to honor a lot of the healthcare workers and specifically nurses. We invited a lot of nurses to the screening, which sometimes they get neglected. You make a film about someone and then you don't invite the people that it's about. That we got to do that, and we're so honored to be able to do that and to give them a night out and to watch a film that's also like Chris was saying, like there's a superhero aspect of it because they are superheroes. They're doing this thing that is superhuman. You shouldn't. No one is able to do something and not make a mistake. But when that mistake can cost a life, that's a lot of pressure for anyone. So I think to me, it's just watching a film one perspective, and hopefully there's more films about this in different genres that can really honor the work that they do, but also in a way that why we go to the movies to be entertained to some degree and also to start conversations at the same time.
Well, you guys definitely entertained me. Congratulations on the film, and yeah, I'm so excited for this. You guys go have fun, go celebrate. Here at CineDump, we let the doers know how they're doing, and you guys are doing just fine. Thank you for being the voice, and thank you for pushing this and making this happen.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jesse.
See ya.